Kelly Carthy, thank you so much for coming on to the show.
You're so welcome. Pleasure to be here.
Now, off air, you were just saying, which I thought I sort of stopped you and we wanted, because I really wanted to get this on recording, but you professionally deal with a lot of leaders
Yeah.
in corporate.
Yeah, in corporate and in business for themselves, so SMEs as well.
Yeah. And there's this idea that the leader will not necessarily be inauthentic, but there is a show that needs to be on display, right?
Yeah.
And I think listening to actually a really, really well-known coach in football,
Yeah.
and he called himself the chief energy officer, right? So he's, as a leader, he's all, other than all the other things that he does, he's bringing energy to the group.
Right.
Which I imagine as most leaders, you've got to do that, right? You've got to be able to, you've got control of the culture, you've got control of, you're the one that everyone looks to in terms of, and to be able to, everyone in your team is getting these cues from you as to how you walk into a room, how you address, how you talk, what energy it is. And it needs to be consistent, obviously. But like you just said, there is a space for a leader when no one's watching.
Correct.
And where they need to put their mask on and before fill their cup up, and to have a support system behind them.
Yeah.
That they can lean into, and that's where you're coming from. But this is what you're saying,
exactly.
is that there is this overwhelming need for that.
There definitely is, and I think in the times we live in, I'm seeing more and more people going through really significant shifts and navigating any personal change, whether that be, just business transitions, personal life, relationships, illness, losing someone that's close to you, whatever that is. There's this perception, an internal perception within that leader, that they have to just keep it all together, and at some level they do. To, as you say, to manage the culture, manage the team, but there has to be somewhere where they can just allow themselves to fall apart and actually navigate those emotions and navigate themselves, and have compassion for themselves. And I see it as a common theme, that there's a real lack of self-compassion. Maybe sometimes it's seen as weakness, but I see it as a great strength, because when someone is recognizing the importance of supporting themselves, and, as you say, putting that oxygen mask on them first, and knowing what that looks like for them specifically, then they're going to be able to bring that energy into the room. They're going to be able to have that sense of presence authentically, rather than having to navigate multiple masks all the time.
The leaders that you work with, are they people who have normally gone through a lot of self-work and self-development over the period of time? Or is it something that's somewhat new to them in terms of trying to go down that avenue of putting yourself first before, or, just as important to put yourself first before the team?
I think it plays both ways. Most of the people I work with have done a lot of self-work, a lot of inner work. However, that other side of recognizing the importance of them having support, not so much. I have a system I set up with my coaching clients where they can voice note me, so for feedback. A lot of my client schedules are crazy. We look at how can we be the most time effective with the way that we communicate. So they'll often send me like a 1 minute, 2 minute voice note. But actually training them to do that is the initial challenge, because they're not used to asking someone else for support or guidance or feedback. And the real purpose of that, ironically, is get them to start listening to that inner dialogue so that they're actually answering their own questions a lot of the time anyway.
What's your thoughts about that? About that inner game, that the relationship between your actions versus your thoughts, I guess?
In terms of?
Like in relation to these leaders who are trying to get the most out of themselves and their life, but they've also this battle between, like, trying to control
Yeah.
that inner critic.
Yeah. I think control's a really, really good word because it's almost the opposite of that.
Right.
Um,
You have to let go.
yeah, yeah, and they're so used to controlling or compartmentalizing so much, and that word of like letting go of control or surrendering
Mm.
is so scary. Yet that's often the solution. It's learning how to create a sense of safety to be able to let go of control, and then that filters out to being able to delegate more effectively and being able to hand over responsibilities and not hold on to them so much. Um, but a lot of the time, we tend to create a resistance. So that inner critic or that bully, like, will resist against it and try and fight it rather than trying to understand why is it there in the first place and what
Mm.
is its job. And that's where I'll kind of engage more of the parts work, internal family systems model, more going into more of the therapy side to shift that conversation internally and somatically
Mm.
so that then we can do the work on the neuro and the language that they're using. That makes sense.
Yeah. And does that encompass this whole idea of leading from within to
Yeah.
being able to control, not control, but I
You
keep
love that
using that
word,
word,
don't
yeah.
you? Yeah.
Taking, I guess, agency,
Yeah,
having
agency is a great word.
having agency to understand and like what emotion you're feeling or what your thoughts are at any particular time,
Absolutely.
and giving power to that, and letting that sort of reel go, or the line go with it
Yeah.
for what it is.
So a lot of the clients that I work with tend to be really stuck in their head
Mm.
and even like connecting to emotion and feeling emotion can be really foreign. That's where that somatic work really comes in. And it's not getting trapped or stuck in processing things.
Hmm.
Um, as a coach, my focus is always forward. You know, okay, this has happened. What now? Where are we going? However, if the nervous system is holding on to something, if there's a past event that you're kind of looping in that is actually sabotaging where you're wanting to go and where you're wanting to direct, you'll keep on kind of spinning in cycles. And so that's where kind of pairing those two things works really well. Let's go and see what's actually going on in the body, underneath the surface, where your blind spots are, when you're not aware of things, where you know there's something that's not quite right, but you can't quite reach it, and you need that external person to come in and just see it from a different point of view or help you navigate it.
Yeah.
Then we've shifted that. And then it's like that part of you releases, loses grip.
The control.
And yeah, loses the need to control you moving forwards. And you suddenly move. And that's what I see with my clients a lot. I do a lot of kind of experiential somatic work with them, particularly when they come
What
in.
does that look like?
There's a really good process that I love working with where I love being in nature, as I've spoken to you before about in terms of using that as a real tool to connect people back to themselves. Because when they're not around four walls, when they're not around technology, when they've got that beautiful landscape around them, and we're very lucky in the Sunshine Coast, we've got lots to choose from.
Mm.
But I get them basically walking up Sunshine Beach stairs, which is quite a significant way. But I do a specific way of looking at getting them in touch with what's going on in the present moment and internally and not trying to think their way through it. So I get them to actually collect, rocks, pandana seeds, a whole lot of things at the bottom, hold on to that weight, and then walk up the stairs really slowly and momentarily pause and just check in with themselves of what is it that I'm actually needing to let go or release to move to whatever this vision, whatever this goal is that I've got kind of in my mind. And sometimes they don't even know what it is. Sometimes they're like, "Oh, I thought I dealt with that 100 times, but it's obviously still there." But the difference with doing kind of a visioning exercise for them at the top of that mountain when they've done that process versus when they haven't done that process is significant because they have in their body and in that sense of that state of presence, let go of whatever it is that they feel like they need to hold on to, control, and now they've kind of cleared the decks so they can actually look out and create something different.
Is there a commonality in this self-sabotage is there something that the majority are holding on to, or is it so particular to the individual?
A lot of it's self-worth stuff. If I look at like where does it all come back to? It's always self-worth. And it doesn't matter if it's like we think we're too much, we think we're not enough. Whatever that story that we've created, we've got so much evidence around that. So it's and a lot of it, again, and generally the clients that I'm dealing with is tied to a career, a job, a title, and learning to strip that all away, and then who am I under all of that, without all of that, and am I okay with that? Usually the answer is no, because that identity has been so connected to, as you say, that job, that relationship, that part of their life that may no longer be there or may be changing form. And so in order for them to, let go of that, they need to realize that they're still valuable without that. They're actually probably even more valuable when they let go of that attachment to that thing.
You've said that with your involvement with someone that holds on to something like this, that you are the independent party that helps them find that agency, helps them like remove the necessary for control or solve the puzzle piece to that piece of that they're holding onto and limiting their own potential. Is there any resistance because you're an incredible coach, award-winning coach, but you don't know what it's like to run a $10 million, I'm talking from a client's perspective.
Yeah. I don't know what it's like to run a $10 million company.
And I've got 6 kids and I've just separated from my wife, or my business partner has just taken some money, has just basically taken the till and run.
Yeah.
Or it has in the past. And yes, we can do all the things, but this is different. This is unique. I am unique. And I think that seems
we all
to be
think we're unique.
Exactly right. And so you have this trauma, or you have this event that occurs in your life where you're like, no one can know what this feels like, because this is so, in my world, this is everything. And in my world, you don't know what this is, how hard this is.
Totally. So I think I've got kind of a 2-part answer to that. One is building trust and rapport. My clients choose me. I don't go and solicit my clients. And that's been the case all the way along. They'll see something that I do or something that I say, or they'll resonate with something, and then that will start a conversation. And that conversation, a lot of the time, is me just asking questions. And I've always had this way of people kind of tell their life story within the first 5 minutes of me meeting them. And it's just the gift that I have of that, holding that space for someone just to be authentically themselves. So trust is key. And then I've gone through probably not the same thing that my client has gone through, but my life journey has had plenty of challenges. And I also get what it means to be in a situation where you think no one really gets this. I'm going through this thing alone. That's why I'm there for them, because I was in that position, in that space of like having to try and figure it all out. And I didn't want someone to tell me what to do. I didn't want someone to give me the answer. I just wanted someone to be able to see me and understand me as I was, and be able to give that guidance and that support of maybe a way through.
But it's your way through, right? It has to be.
It's their way through always.
Yeah, sorry. I was
Yeah. Like, yeah.
Sorry, goodness.
Yeah.
It was so meta then. I'm thinking about the challenges you've gone through.
Right.
Right.
It's always your way through.
Yeah.
And that's the core of the inner leader.
Yes.
Is a good coach is not giving you answers, is not advising you, is not finding, they'll help you find solutions. But those insights come from within. And for me, it's creating enough space and personalized practices that work for that said client that give them those aha moments. And I'm fortunate to have like 2 decades worth of resources and tools that I can pull out depending on what that client is challenged by. And do I get it right every single time? No, we play with things, but it's that personalization of, okay, this is the challenge they're going through. Let's use this technique or this practice and just get curious and see what happens. And more commonly than not, that person will have that moment of insight, send me a message, go, oh my gosh, I just had literally the message I got yesterday. I just had this really huge breakthrough in my meditation, and then proceeded to share this amazing insight that they got just from tweaking something a little bit. And I guess that's where I love working in those kind of micro shifts. Let's just change something a little bit, or let's just look at this in a different way, play with it and see what shows up for you. And usually it's like that little perspective shift that gives them that insight that maybe changes the way they look at something or changes the way that they approach something, and that gets a different result. And now they're on a completely different trajectory.
Hey team, just popping in to say thanks for listening. If you're enjoying the episode, please take a second to like or follow the show and share it with a friend. It's the best way to help us grow and keep bringing you more great content. All right, let's get back into it. You mentioned your journey, and everyone's trauma is their own trauma, but
totally.
Talk to me about your journey and how you've been able to manage through.
Yeah.
Because it's inspiring for me knowing a little bit about it. You've used that for the betterment of others.
Yeah.
And the trauma and the challenges that you faced. It wouldn't have been frowned upon, or it probably would have been expected that you just don't go and use this to inspire hundreds of other people. But you've chosen that path. So I'm interested to know, take me back to those pivotal moments.
Yeah.
And how it felt.
Yeah.
And then if you can, because I think without foreshadowing, a lot of people that come on this show don't pay homage to the actual incredible moments of their life with enough detail.
Yeah.
Right? So they'll say, oh yeah, then I did this.
Yeah.
Going, oh, wait, hold on. Like, they're so nonchalant about it because it's their reality. And they're like, yeah, no, I just did that, right? Like, that's just what happened. But what I find inspiring, and I'll let you go for it, but from knowing what you've had to endure and then dust yourself off, but not just pick yourself up, but to then go and work with all these people and use that as a lesson, and that fulfills you and fulfills them. That piece where you've gone, I'm going to make this better for others, is really inspiring. And I'd love to hear about that part of the journey as well.
Yeah, sure. I guess there've been a lot of points along my whole kind of life. I've always been curious in personal growth and evolution and development. Being vulnerable and authentic has probably been the thing that I guess has allowed me to thrive in what I do as well, because I'm real and I'm an open booking, I guess, what I've gone through and the challenges I've faced. And I think that helps people to realize that I get it and that I can relate to some of the challenge they're facing. I guess the most recent, the most recent version of that is going through, personally having taken a lot of people through relationship challenges and divorces and separations. Um, in the background, knowing that mine was kind of held together by threads. If I was being really or authentic, I wasn't in a really fulfilling relationship. And I was doing all these incredible things kind of in my work. And I have two beautiful boys. But it wasn't a hidden thing, that it was a super challenging time for me. Navigating through, I guess, being married to someone who has a significant mental health challenge, um, was a journey itself.
Mm.
And I think there's a part of me that said yes to that. And again, we've talked about this before, but there are no regrets. The reason I can go as deep as I can in the work that I do is because of the depths that I've had to do my own work to navigate through that. Um, and I think it kind of really hit home, when I was, I guess, holding it all and trying to navigate, kind of working kind of 3 different roles, plus having my oldest one, and then navigating the emotional challenges of someone else, and trying to hold it all together, and not having anyone who got, as you said previously, not having anyone who got it.
Mm.
No one could understand what that challenge kind of felt like to walk through every day, and feeling like there was kind of no solution at hand. And I actually had started in my 20s with a real interest in personal development, had a business at a young age with a partner. Um, Another great learning lesson. But really did a lot of personal growth work and personal development. And when I took a step back when I was in this situation, and and I was at the stage, coaching clients, but more from the personal training side of things, and looking more at, with my retreats, taking people away to kind of retrain their habits. And from a, physical standpoint, yes, definitely the mental, but much more kind of the wellness space. Hit this point and took a good look at myself and realized I actually haven't been doing a lot of this, growth. I've been so busy out there kind of putting out fires constantly within this kind of dynamic that I'm not doing the work on myself.
Mm.
And what would happen if I started doing the work on myself? How could things shift and change? Um, and then that took me into this, this path, that inner leadership work, and recognizing the impact that we have when we change internally, we have a significant impact on those around us. Unfortunately, the trauma in the other was too great, and I continued for quite some years to continue to do that internal work, hoping that things would change in the environment, and by miracle, my partner would somehow get better and everything would be okay. Unfortunately, I came to the realization that, yes, you can do all of that inner work, but there also are times when
Mm.
the environment gets to change, as well. And so I then went through that whole process of separation, divorce, just watching, I guess, my life crumble.
It must be challenging. I mean, you can speak to your own experience, but for anyone who is in I guess from the first point of call, and first thing in my mind is a romantic relationship, but
Yeah,
it probably also leads to a business relationship as well.
yeah,
If you're on this path of, or wanting to pull the the wool, the thread rather, and see how this rabbit hole goes with the self development, with the inner leadership work, with the I'm going to, and it's all so positive and so growth mindset, and
yeah,
the potential is limitless, basically, with what we can achieve. If your significant other,
yeah,
either at home or at work, is just not into that, it makes it challenging,
yeah,
and
yeah,
particularly when Yeah, and I remember going to a one-day retreat a couple of years ago, and there was this like 60-year-old lady there, and she was being brought by her daughter,
Right.
and she loved it, but she did say in the group, in a safe place, obviously it was a safe sort of confessional group, sort of like, what's your deepest fear? And her deepest fear was that she'll like this so much, and it's such polar opposites to her
Her partner.
30-year marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so she had a genuine fear of what that would look like going forward. But it must have been hard on you, given that this is what you were leaning into, and this is essentially your job to inspire others, and yet what you're then going home to is not what you were preaching during the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and I guess I had a lot of people seeing that from the outside in, that, when you've got so many, I guess, beliefs and ingrained systems culturally of like, my internal one was you stay no matter what. That was like an internal piece that it took me a long time to find that piece. And once I released that, released the marriage in a big way. A friend of mine, used to use this analogy, which was really good. It was like, it's a slinky. So, and because in a relationship, you'll both have growth, phases, and you're not going to be going in that growth phase all the time. That would just be full on. You need time to integrate shifts and changes. But generally, you're always moving, forward. But if you've got someone who's kind of not generally moving at all, or moving at a very slow rate, and unfortunately, my growth tends to be like big, huge leaps. Where's the next piece? Where's the next piece? Where's the next piece? At some point in time, that person's going to either be pulled back to where the other is for comfort and for, staying together, as, your example of the lady in the workshop, or, which is what I did for a very long time, they're going to continue to do it, but then be dragging that load and feeling that weight, that
tension,
feeling that tension, or at some point in time, they'll release it and it'll go. It'll snap.
Yeah.
And I guess that pivotal moment was, I guess, another significantly traumatic time for me, but obviously in hindsight, everything happens. I always have that belief that everything happens in divine purpose and for divine reason. But I had my first retreat back after pandemic, after not being able to do anything, after doing everything remotely, and had all of my incredible clients in one place at one time, and had a tragic incident happen, and lost a client in a drowning incident. Happened before retreat time. It was a complete accident. She wasn't even, I think, 10 meters in at the time before the retreat started, like literally a sunrise dip in the ocean, and got caught in a flash rip. And I chose to stay and keep that retreat going. It was a very different leadership retreat. But navigating through, I guess, that level of trauma and that level of grief and that level of loss and that level of holding people together, I then came home and I was already in that breaking process, kind of being there for a while. But I got home and there was literally nowhere for me to fall. I couldn't grieve. I had to just go back and be the rock in the family. And there was no one holding. And I had this real realization that none of my needs are being met. And I think it wasn't that one, because I'd probably had that a few times over, but I actually deserve that in a relationship. And then the next question, what could that look like if I had that? What would, how much, growth and development impact again that I could make? And how is this holding me back in terms of what I could do with the work that I want to do? And I think that, that impact piece really pulled me. And it started me on that journey where everything crumbled, everything shifted, everything changed. And I think I had to go through that level of turbulence and change and kind of wrecking ball that my clients often go through. And when I did, I knew I'd get out the other side.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I had to walk through that fire. But one of the things, and something that I often will say to clients as well, is if you're going to go through it, make the most of it and experience it. And so rather than trying to rush through it, kind of slowed down and used myself as a case study and went through the processes and felt it and allowed myself to go through, the grief, but also go through all of the challenges that I hit, actually sit in them rather than try and rush through them.
With the work you had done prior to that, because that sounds like, so I can understand the timeline, COVID goes through, and I can only imagine with the slinky analogy, there's a fair amount of tension with COVID.
Yeah, there was a fair amount of tension already. And I was navigating, and I had, second child by then. So I was flying between Australia and Bali running my retreats. And I'd actually almost kind of living a different life. So in some ways, I kind of put the blinders on because I was just flying between Noosa and Bali, and I had my youngest with me, and I would just hand him to the nanny, and like everything was kind of working out except for that part of my life.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like everything else is kind of running. And then I landed home and I didn't go back, and then everything kind of bottomed out. And I then just dove into more learning, more training, running retreats online, running on my coaching again, just focusing on the things that I could control.
Yes.
But it wasn't until that point where I felt like I'd lost everything in terms of losing a client and a really close friend. But then everything felt like it was falling apart and falling away. And then that part of my life that is just not working.
Yeah.
I can't not pay attention to anymore.
Yeah, it almost sounds like it was that period of time where and losing a friend / client in that way, you desperately needed someone to be able to be there to hold you and to be able to assist and listen, right? Not fix, like we said, but to be able to say, yeah, I hear you and this is shit,
Yeah. And I guess since then, going through the work for me has been, how do I get to do that for myself? And how do I create support systems that I can lean into that create that support? Because solo parenting, as you've known, solo parenting with 2 young boys on your own and then trying to rebuild a business and, all the things, it's really challenging and it's really hard sometimes, a lot of the time. And there were kind of, I guess, 2 key things that I found. One was just building an epic support village of women and men who are just always there for me and helped me navigate. And 2 was finding what is that thing that I can find as an anchor that can help me start building that kind of internal place where I can fall. And that became for me freediving. And then it became a very big theme of things that I find for a client. What is that passion? What is that thing that brings aliveness to you, that reminds you of who you are, that you don't need someone else to tell you?
Is nature important in that aspect?
So important.
That equation?
Yeah. Because
that's
we're so
why
distracted.
That's why all the corporates are golf, you reckon?
Yeah, right.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Not that
I mean, it's a good thing to, get away from the phones, get out, walk. I mean, I prefer to see people doing meetings on a golf course than meetings in a boardroom.
Sure.
I think better decisions are going to be made when you're in fresh air that you can breathe. Potentially not with the alcohol involved. I'd have clearer decisions, but, there are ways of, I think we don't switch off enough. And that's becoming a really big problem, is we're easily distracted. on our phones, 24/7. You've got social media scroll, like everything is there. Just people don't tend to just sit with themselves.
Yeah.
That's a really scary thing. And if you ask most of the high performing individuals, the number one tool they use, it's meditation.
Well, yeah,
Meditation
for
forces
sure.
us to create space.
Yeah. And I think from the work that I've gone into with the meditation is that with the right intention and the right presence, what it is bringing you to the present moment, right?
Yeah,
But that can take on a lot of forms. But
totally.
but the common one, obviously, is whether it's guided or just sitting there with your own thoughts, right? Closed eyes.
That can be scary for people though,
For sure, but
who are
that's
going
probably
through.
because also that's so revealing, and
Yes.
you become so vulnerable with your own self.
Yeah.
And it's so hard because you are so adapted to this notification, this like distracted world. The idea of sitting, you know, by yourself with your own thoughts is challenging.
Yeah, and I guess to add to that, because we have this thing, negative bias, where we're constantly going to go to the negative. Sometimes just starting off someone in that place is probably not the best space to start off, is creating some guidance. And I guess that's where the somatics work really well, in actually just connecting back to the body itself and not being so caught up in the thoughts
It's
initially.
probably a bit about that acceptance of the negative bias as well.
Yeah.
Because that's just
how we are as
that's
humans.
DNA, right?
Yeah.
That's like cavemen going, was that a rustle in the tree, in the bush?
Protective.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
nah, it's just the wind. Let's just don't worry about it. That's positive. You're dead.
Yeah.
It was a lion. But it's that whole, and actually, no, it's protective for sure. And so I think a big step is to just accept that and to not try to think that's a negative thing that we have that bias, or it's something that needs to be remedied, I think.
Yeah.
I'm interested to know, Kel, in those really difficult times, you talked about walking through the fire.
Yeah.
And embracing that journey for what it is. Presumably, though, even though, take me back and try to, as I said, you'd be like every other guest that goes, "Oh yeah, I just did it. It's all good," and not realize, even to your own subconscious. Did you said before that you knew the sun would shine again.
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
You knew that better days were ahead.
Yeah.
But the shit's real.
Oh yeah. It is.
And you've just lost your friend to this, freak accident. You've made that decision to snap the slinky, the analogy, and you see your life, as you said, your life's crumbling around you. Like, there is so much growth in that, but I also feel like for that growth to really, to be genuine growth, you have to believe that this is the worst. You can't just, there's this whole piece about, we talk about resilience and dealing with trauma on this show a lot, and everyone that, like, I feel like you've got to almost be blinded.
It's not always shine. Like my perspective wasn't always, it's always going to shine. It's always going to, like, there are plenty of moments that I was ridiculously messy, and how the hell is this going to get better?
Yeah.
But I think I had enough evidence of me creating the impossible out of the impossible over and over and over again in my life to have a very deep core belief that, one, I never give up. Two, I always get to the other side. And I've seen so many miraculous things happen in my world and in the world of my clients as well.
Yeah.
That I guess I'd had that built belief. And the biggest thing that I have stuck to, and I'm still, sticking to as I'm kind of coming out the other side, is I can only control what I can control. And so I built a really strong resilience against things that were just out of my control. And I focused on the core things that were the most important. You know, one of mine was having my boys with really healthy nervous systems and thriving and being okay through the whole process, having a home that they were just really happy and settled in, and that they knew everything was going to be okay. Um, and focusing on one day at a time, one breath at a time. And on the days that were really, really hard, which there were quite a few, remembering this too shall pass.
Yeah.
I was like, no matter, because the reality is no matter how rough things get, it always passes.
Yeah.
It cannot stay the same. And the only way that we're going to move ourselves towards a more positive future, and as I say, like walk through the fire and yes, go through all of the things that you're going to have to go through, but grow through it.
Yeah.
And at the other side, every time something would fall back into place, I wouldn't override it. I'd actually sit there and just deep gratitude of, okay, this piece, gained it. This is a win.
Yeah.
Now the next piece, and did my best to let go of the things that were just out of my control. Because there's one person with, two humans I need to support, and a life, and I'm not perfect, and I'm going to make mistakes, and I'm going to F up. There was a lot of having to just come back to that place of self-compassion and I guess almost parent myself through it, so that when it was really tough, to feel the toughness for sure, but then remember that if I stay in that, then I get to stay in that, or I can feel it, I can go through it, I can be like, yeah, this is unfair, but as we've discussed before, staying in the unfair doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
It just stays you in that place of victim and completely powerless.
The whole position. Yeah, the whole position of like, this is what's happened.
Yeah.
And
what's next?
Right? Exactly. And that's the diffusing the victim mentality to go.
Totally.
Yeah, you're prejudiced, or you've got the rub of the, you haven't had many good things that go your way, and
yeah.
Let's go.
And I think it's balancing that out with those times, because again, inner critic or inner bully, like, just get on with it, toughen up, keep going, you've got this. There are times where you've got to kind of let go and go, you know what, I'm just a human today, and this really sucks, and this, this message I got, or this conversation I had, or this result that happened, that's not okay. And I'm not okay with it, and I'm going to be like really angry and get it all out of my system rather than holding on to it and pretending that I'm
sit
fine.
in it.
Yeah, sit in it. Be mad, be angry. Like, that anger is a really important emotion that we make wrong all the time. But from anger, we create action.
Yeah.
We get really angry about something, that gives us energy and drive, and it's about then utilizing it and directing it in a way that's going to benefit us long term.
I think also having that relationship with yourself to understand the emotion that you're feeling, whether it be
totally
anger, hate, jealousy, sadness.
It's remarkable how many people can't name.
But just to be able to identify it, sit in it, and go and use that as a bit of a data set to go, okay, why does that message that I've just received,
why does it trigger me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And unpack that, and then have that, and that's the Rich Burrows, who comes on a fair bit, talks about this. Your power is the time between the stimulus and the response.
Yeah.
And to be able to go understand that, to go, why am I so enraged by this?
Such a really, like, it's one of the things I come back to, it difference between a reaction and a response.
Yeah. And
take a step back.
And to be able to sit in the response, sit in how it impacts you.
Yeah.
And just to accept that for what it is, and be really,
and take ownership of it.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, when we react, then we make it often about they did this to me, they made me feel, was it's my emotion.
100%.
I am totally feeling this. And why is it? Because it's obviously that person, that thing has had that effect, but that's not the only time that I've probably had that trigger. And I guess that trust the triggers to teach.
It's so confronting to be able to say, to not be able to have the excuse, you made me feel.
Right.
I made myself feel, right? You've done something, and I haven't had the chance to allow my own agency to how I feel about it, right? But you haven't done anything to me. I have done that to myself. And it's hard because there's no more blame. It's all on you.
And it's taking it then the next step where you're not attacking yourself. I did this to myself. There's something going on underneath the surface. There's some past story or some past event that's creating that trigger in me. How can I get underneath it to actually understand that better? Because it's really quick to go into, I did that to me, and then move straight into the critique and the blame and that's, great to take ownership, but isn't it even more effective to then go one step underneath and go, okay, where does this actually come from in the first place?
Oh, I love that.
And that's why, my work's in neurosomatic coaching, because the neuro will say, I'll just get over it. I'll take ownership for it. It's my anger. The somatic will go, okay, well, what's going on in the body? Like, did something happen somewhere in my past? Was there an event that triggered this? And I was 7 years old, and my 7-year-old self doesn't actually understand that I'm actually now 44 or 45 or whatever it is. Because if you deal with that, it's done.
Then you don't get
that trigger might not happen again.
Yeah. Huge.
And interesting, if that person does a similar thing or a similar, and you then don't react, that's when the win happens.
Yeah, there's no effect. Ah, man, that's. I've got some work, because I'm all for no, you didn't do that to me. Put it on my shoulders. I'll carry it, right?
Right.
But not to then.
Why would you want to carry it?
Exactly. Go deeper and go, actually, why am I frustrated?
Yeah.
You haven't made me frustrated. I've made myself frustrated. I accept that. But it's more so, as you said, unpacking that and going, well, why are you frustrated? Don't just leave it on your shoulders to carry, but work through it so you don't have to carry it at all.
Exactly.
Kelly, this is great. All right, before you go, and I probably need to get you back on, because I've got notes, and I've got chapter 1, 2, and 3, and I've just gone through chapter 1. So
love it.
Anyway,
always happy to.
Fast 5. Okay. What does success mean to you?
Success to me means fulfillment in multiple areas of my life.
What does happiness mean to you?
Happiness means that I wake up and I get inspired by the sunrise and the sunset day in, day out, and I'm always surprised with the way that it makes me feel.
What does your morning routine look like?
Morning routine looks like either a really early gym session and then meditation practice, or meditation practice. Kind of a non-negotiable for me, particularly for my work, for my day. And that may include a small 7-year-old sitting on top of me and talking at me, or it may not. Like, I've learned how to navigate those things. I don't try and create the perfect environment. I just get the thing done. And then taking my dog for a walk. Otherwise, she goes a little bit crazy.
The dog.
Yeah.
A piece of advice you'd give to your former self that you want to put on the billboard for the world to see?
Do the work. Do the inner work. It'll pay off.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I had a lot of, my inner critic was really, probably still is to a certain extent, but it was really strong, and it sabotaged me in many areas, that perfectionist in so many aspects of my life. And I think if I just lost the grip on that and just kind of been a little bit more compassionate towards myself, might have been a little bit of an easier ride.
And a guest that you think would be good for us to have on the show next?
I'm going to say a really dear friend of mine, Martina Jewell, who absolutely inspires me. To go through her bio will take me probably 10 minutes.
Okay.
But she is an incredible leader, as a veteran, but has many awards to her name. But also, aside from that, she is a mum to 2 teenage girls and a really dear friend of mine. And I see the way she handles some serious challenges in life and just keeps on keeping on and keeps on being a really good inspiration to so many people as well.
Great. Kelly Carthy, thank you so much for coming to the show. It's been a pleasure.
Absolute pleasure.
Till next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Next round.